According to Mythos, 100% of you are subscribed. Good job.
In-game, relic sets really do give us a lot of power, but how powerful were those that wielded them before us? Hello, my name is Manny, and today we're going to be going through 6 more relic sets that can be found within Honkai Star Rail. This is the second part of a series where we're going to be going over all of them. So there's 3 more parts to go after this, which I'm very excited for. In this video, we're going to be going over the Eagle of Twilight Line, the Hunter of Glacial Forest, the Knight of Purity Palace, the Band of Sizzling Thunder, the Firesmith of Lava-Forging, and the Wastelander of Banditry Desert. All these relic sets have a lot of tiny little intriguing details that I personally have enjoyed dissecting, and even if some of these don't really have major lore implications, it's still really fascinating the story that they tell, so I am a huge fan. So with that, let us get on with the video. Eagle of Twilight Line, Eagle's Beaked Helmet. Every day at dawn, Salsoda's skyfishers would depart from the moving city's skyport, soaring in the air with their winged suits, hunting for phlogiston jellyfish that flew out of the sand. Phlogiston, an essential component of the face flame, was the blood of the colossal moving city. Phlogiston must be sufficiently captured and gathered to ensure that the whole city could always stay ahead before the twilight zone that divided day and night. If any skyfishers died from exhaustion or were attacked by giant birds, Salsodians would spare no effort in bringing back the remains and would bury their winged suits and eagle helmets with them in the dark land. According to the traditional Salsodian rituals, landing equals death and is a symbol of eternal rest. The flight must never stop, just like how the city must never stop moving. This eagle helmet has a short condolence message carved on its beak. Landing is not the eagle's shackle. Wings are, because of which you have to fly. Eagle's Soaring Ring. Only the most skilled, respected, and reliable skyfisher captains would receive a soaring ring. They blew their fishing whistles in the sky and seamlessly coordinated with one another, like they were the most sharp-eyed hunting eagles. For the duration of each flight, each team member was lonely and vulnerable. All they could rely on were the 124 types of whistle that could be performed by their team captain. Hence, there had long been a saying in Salsodo: skyfishers entrusted 1/3 of their lives to the rigorously developed technology, 1/3 to their ingenious refined equipment, and 1/3 to their reliable lead skyfisher captain. Being asked by so many families to take care of their skyfisher children, the team captain constantly felt the burden of this little ring he wore. This soaring ring's etching was mottled with one word engraved on the inner side of the ring: responsibility. Eagle's winged suit harness. It was no easy feat for Salsoda's skyfishers to entrap and hunt phlogiston jellyfish that flew out of the sand. During turbulent flights, the seemingly tender and soft safety harness was the thread of life for a skyfisher. Hunting phlogiston jellyfish was never easy. From trick moves to intense chasing, from precise blocking to the final capturing act. One wrong move in any one of these links in the chain could mean mortal danger. It was customary for a young skyfisher to get one strand of hair from each parent and weave them into the harness with mental supports, while a married one should get one from their spouse. In this manner, the harness would be blessed by the power of home and ensure that the Skyfisher always returned safely. In this cruel world, where all fought hard for survival, home was the only place that could offer comfort and support for the Skyfisher. The hair inside this harness was still intact, with a faint white at the root. It came from a female. Eagle's Quilted Puttees. Hunting phlogiston jellyfish was a long survival game for skyfishers from Salsodo. Legs, being far from the heart, can only maintain their temperature when tightly strapped in fluffy feather puttees. Only at the end of the long and highly stressful hunt would an exhausted skyfisher begin to feel pain and fatigue. For those unprepared, it would be too late to discover their partial necrosis caused by severe frostbite. Therefore, skyfishers would check if they had tightened their puttees many times before taking off. After all, they wouldn't get another chance to do so in high-speed flight. They knew what the wind would take away as they stepped into the sky. Traces of lime powder and aluminum powder were found in the metal shell embedded in the putty, which seemed to be a means of emergency heating. Okay, wow, I did not expect Salsodo to have this bad of living conditions. For context, all that I knew before tackling this set is that Welt and Void Archives were picked up at Salsodo by the Astral Express. So in my brain, I'm just like, oh, it shouldn't be that bad. And the other thing that sort of came into mind was just maybe it's a bit snowy, because we see it from that one trailer that they did, the HI3X Honkai Star Rail collab, where Walt is just using Void Archives to do everything in such unethical ways. So yeah, I wasn't expecting. I mean, to be fair, it is snow, so I should have expected harsh environments, but now reading it out loud, I'm just wow. Terrifying. Just, yeah, I don't know, the fact that, they literally lost sensation in the legs, the fact that they're hunting all these phlogiston jellyfish, it's interesting. Which, speaking of phlogiston jellyfish, apparently those things are, related to the Genius Society, and one of them got executed by Polka Kakamon because they are not real. Apparently they're not real. So they might have some major lore relevance that I'm not fully aware. We will talk more about these specific members of the Genius Society in a later set. But yeah. For now, we just know Salsodo, really harsh environment. This is where phlogiston are, and phlogiston is real, mind you, keep that in mind for the future video. And yeah. Oh, wait, actually, before I forget, funnily enough, the Eagle of Twilight Line set has 2 more relic pieces that did not make it to the final version of the game, which are the Banshee's Whistle and the Hunting Dirk. They don't really have any lore behind them other than just mentioning how, yeah, one of these is very traditional, the other one's used just to communicate between the hunters. It's cool, but that's really just about it. It's just really nice seeing the fact that there's artwork for them though. But yeah, a lot of these sets in this video have beta set pieces that didn't make it into the game, which is really cool. Hunter of Glacial Forest. Hunter's Artaius Hood. The hunter's rule for surviving the snow plains of Snowland was simple enough. Never go to the south of the mountain during Artaius' hunting season, since that mountain shaking white bear did not welcome anyone. As the hunter sent by the association, Hugh went to the south of the mountain after receiving the rescue call. Never did he expect to walk right into an ambush long in the planning.
After waking up from a long shock induced by gunshots, Hugh immediately realized he just barely escaped death. However, he also realized his plight was far from over, for Artaius was staring right at him. Despite the short range and the fast pace, some of Artaius' messy attacks were bound to miss. Hugh calmly waited for an opening, then he whipped out his bone blade soaked in poison and jumped up from an extraordinary strike in the blink of an eye. Their positions as the predator and prey were reverted. After removing Artaius' head and fur, he managed to survive the first night in snow despite his untreated gunshot wounds. Days later, the Hunters Association located Artaius' headless corpse. It was then they realized the hunter who was supposed to die had survived, and an unforeseen avenger was born. Hunter's Lizard Gloves. Snow rock lizards lack agility and strength, but they can wait in ambush on a rock for 2 weeks for the precise moment when their prey lets down its guard, then finally striking a fatal blow. Registered hunters, however, couldn't wait that long. They decided to march into the snowy mountains to hunt down Hugh and neutralize this approaching threat. Though there were many exceptionally powerful talents among the registered hunters of the association, they were never comrades who had each other's backs. Hunters congregated only for the hefty price of the bounty, and would betray one another without hesitation for the right price. After all, anything could happen on these desolate plains. As long as the old hunter Hugh was taken care of, everyone would earn more bounty. That was their consensus, for which they paid the price. Hugh made more than enough preparations. Hunting the top hunters would be no easier a task than hunting monsters. Hugh must be more patient than ever, for patience was always the most valued trait in a hunter. Before long, the number of registered hunters in the Hunter Association began to dwindle, for the horror known as Hugh the Undead was spreading. Hunter's Ice Dragon Cloak. The Lord of the Ice Lake, whose body was fully covered in unique scales that dazzlingly reflected the sunlight, could easily render itself invisible by diving underwater. Few hunters could handle a battle with such an invisible monstrosity. Days later, the registered hunters of the association stumbled upon the ice dragon's carcass, with its scales already peeled off. At that moment, their horror surpassed their shock. The beasts that Hugh had hunted down numbered in the thousands, each and every one of which was uniquely precious. Only by reaching a thorough understanding of the prey's traits and habits would a hunter truly achieve the full completion of a hunt. For Hugh, the Lord of the Ice Lake, was the last piece in the puzzle that was the snow plains. Hence, he must finish the hunt to bring his hunter's soul to completion. And now, the highest price bounty was put on the head of Hugh the Hunter, instead of the Lord of the Ice Lake, marking the beginning of a hideous all-out hunt. All hunters should be prepared to become the prey. It was so for Hugh, and even more so for those traitors. Hunter's Soft Elkskin Boots. Despite being deeply wounded and too weak to maintain a body temperature that can melt snow, a dying torch antler elk was still a most dangerous beast. Hugh pointed his hunting rifle straight at the dying elk. Looking at those awe-inducing eyes, he thought those reminded him of his own. Ever since the ambush by the registered hunters, Hugh's life force had become depleted like a dying candle in the wind. He was sharply aware that the only reason he managed to survive was due to his unyielding desire for revenge. Should it become satiated, his life would instantly come to an end. Scattered like snowflakes, despite his heavy footsteps, Hugh's large soft elk skin boots did not leave any prints on the ground. He must stay sharp for the last hunt of his life. Amid panic and hysteria, the Hunters Association began to crumble. They began to purge traitors in haste, hoping it would grant them Hugh's mercy. Instead, it only led to their own self-destruction by mutual distrust. Hugh fell down for good on the snowy plains before he could get a taste of the pleasure of completing his revenge.
Oh my god. Wait, so like this relic set has like no major like lore relevance within like what we're currently seeing. But dear freaking god, it is so awesome and horrifying. The idea of this hunter getting betrayed, being wounded in really bad conditions, in a really bad environment, and still thriving, taking down all the other hunters, taking down some of the most legendary, scary beasts in Bellabug is absolutely insane, but I love it. And he's doing all of this purely out of spite and revenge. The fact that he ended up becoming a myth, like the ghost hunter or whatever it was that they said in the Relics, it's absolutely awesome, and I just love it. I do feel so bad that the conclusion of all this was just like, yeah, all the other hunters started taking each other out, so they would no longer be going out on the wild to get executed by the hunter of Glacial Forest. So, as the Relics attest, like, you know, once like this passion and drive faded, so did he, because that was what was keeping him alive. Like, that is just damn. And also, as mentioned before, with the Eagle of Twilight Line set, this set also does have two pieces which did not leave the beta, but it is interesting to see. There is the Hunter's Canine Whistle, which is just in order to call friends, apparently, you know, like to signal each other. And there's also the Hunter's Elk Bone Knife, which is apparently tradition passed down generations, because like parents teach their children how to make them. I don't know, really cool, but again, nothing, it's not in the game.
Knight of Purity Palace, Knight's Forgiving Casque. The Solemn Knight had never taken off her hard and heavy casque before anybody. Safina's religious solemnity and silence projected an unbearable air of intimidation. Haughty devils and mad clergy all instinctively showed fear before her solemn presence. Only few of the clergy knew that Safina's devilish origins were concealed behind that casque of religiosity. The church both feared and craved for the devil's powers, which was how the conflicted results came to be. The church captured a newborn devil, trained her to become a valiant solemn knight, yet forbid her to ever reveal her true appearance, molded her to obey the pontiff's order, and eventually made her the maiden's silent knight. Maiden Vanera was of similar age to Safina, and she was the one who guided Safina to learn the scriptures. To this day, Maiden Vanera could still remember the devil's profile in candlelight. My dear Safina, I have seen your future. I will remember it, always. Maiden Vanera gradually lost her eyesight after reaching adulthood. Knight's Silent Oath Ring. Bit by bit, solemnity and decorum crumbled, and the knights of the church raised their swords against each other as the rings they swore to protect grew dim. The power granted from the stellar seas gifted the church the strength to punish devils, but also spread an insanity that ate away at human rationality. Tormented by this madness, the knights of the church could no longer discern decorum and order. obsessed with expelling all devil spawns for the salvation of the whole church. When these threats came for the maiden, Safina had no time to hesitate. She cannot stay her hand even if her opponent was the Arch Knight of the Church of Purity Palace. The Solemn Knight must always protect and defend the maiden. Safina did not forget that creed. My dear Safina, there is no need to feel guilty. This is the consequence of converting the power of the Aeons. All there was left in the church were the last maiden and the guardian knight. Knight's Solemn Breastplate. The armor of the Solemn Knight must be blessed by Maiden Vanera, a ceremony where one makes a vow to become the guardian knight. The church once constrained the young devil's hands and feet in metal chains. Now, Safina appealed that her armor should be forged with metals from the land of devils, so that one day she may rest in peace alongside something from her homeland. The maiden of the Church of Purity Palace carefully washed the sins from the armor, recited reverent prayers to God, and sealed an ancient miracle on a point on the breastplate right above the heart. The church did not believe in the loyalty of devils, but they were convinced that their doctrines could purify everything. Safina gazed in silence, while this ancient ritual assigned the responsibility to her. The maiden did not believe that the ceremony had any purpose, or that there are any make-believe scenes to be washed away. My dear Safina, the knight must protect the maiden well. Leaning against Safina's breastplate, Vanera could clearly hear the intense beating of Safina's heart. Knight's Iron Boots of Order. After the collapse of the Church of Purity Palace, Safina took off the knight's iron boots and embarked with the maiden Vanera on a long journey to the land of devils. At the request of the maiden, Safina did not let any knights of the church carry the madness out of the church. This secret was forever buried down in their hearts. No one knew when this rumor started. A devil spawn once banished by the church had possessed the holy Solemn Knight, and an evil witch drove the knight to break down the order of the pontiff. As time passed, rumors became truths. The devout followers of the church blamed it all on the Solemn Knight, dumping all their desperation and madness onto her, deeming her as the source of all disasters. After losing their place of refuge, the maiden suggested that they should set forth for their homeland. Henceforth, I will become a witch, and you will return to being a devil. Safina could not deny the validity of Vanera's statements.
I'm actually pretty intrigued about the implications that this particular relic set brings into the lore. Not necessarily because it's something like, oh, major, or it's like related to like anything we've seen so far, because legitimately speaking, this is fully detached of it all. But there is the mention of devils. And for those that might not be aware, Kafka used to be a devil hunter before she was a stellar hunter. So I'm wondering if learning more through this can potentially give us more about Kafka's past or things around those shenanigans. I'm not entirely sure. Again, I like the concept. It's pretty interesting. I love these two, the maiden and the knight, end up together. Really wholesome, really cute. Love the idea that the knight that's serving the church is actually a devil, because the people are like, oh, we can purify anything because with their like holier than thou attitudes. So it's like, I don't know, it's very intriguing. I wish there was more correlation to what's currently going on in any of the planets or any of the characters. But yeah, I hope this gets brought up in the future. Also, apparently, I don't remember where exactly, but I read in the wiki that like one of Luocha's Eidolons could potentially relate to this set. But I could not find anything that just made sense. So if anybody knows why that is, and you can like explain in the comments, that would be greatly appreciated. Oh, and also before I forget, just like the previous two relic sets, this one too has two relic pieces that were unused because they were removed once the game came out. These ones being the Knight's Homeland Necklace. Wish that one had gone through to the game because then we would know more about the devils. And the Knight's Purity Palace Vow. Not exactly sure what that would be. I mean, it would still be kind of cool just for the context of what's going on with this faction. But oh well. Band of Sizzling Thunder. Band's Polarized Sunglasses. The star's lifespan was plunging. Residents of Emerald 3 fled their home planet before the red giant exploded. Faced with a future of no escape, the elites took away hope, feigning ignorance to cries of desperation. Yanis's parents paid a massive amount of credits to board the ship, helplessly praying for an interstellar salvation. The explosion of the red giant would destroy the planet, and it would collapse into a white dwarf. Before the arrival of the imminent doom, escape was the only option. Yanis, the Doctor of Chaos, however, decided to try her best to face the annihilation of her home galaxy head-on, attempting to prove that the existence of her home would never perish. As the dying sun burned brighter, Yanis took her mother's sunglasses and returned to her home planet with like-minded youngsters. Only cowards flee while shouting the name of the Redeemer. Cited from Cheap Salvation, the hit of Sizzling Thunder's first album. Yanis rewarded her angry words during a dispute with her parents into lyrics. Band's Turing Bracelet. Sizzling Thunder from Emerald 3 quickly emblazed the whole planet's enthusiasm with several hits. Marking the beginning of their concert tour were the dazzling sparkles of electrifying thunder when Dave, the rhythm guitarist, fiercely struck chords, which coincidentally was also worshipped by hordes of their music fans as the only light in their lives. In every concert tour the band had, there would be fans keeping order voluntarily and handing out wristbands to everyone upon entering the concert grounds. Most of these fans could not afford the costly fees for an escape, so accepting their fate and waiting for the electromagnetic burst to arrive was their only option. Ever since witnessing the return of these rebellious youths to the planet, they had felt it in their bones that their souls were ignited at this very moment. Onto these wristbands, they wrote their lyrics, their showtimes, as well as the band's unvoiced screams. Sid, the bassist, collected the wristbands for every tour. His girlfriend wove them into a bracelet, which Sid then wore all the time. There's no meaning, no direction, nowhere else to go, and no future for us. From Our Way, a single from Sizzling Thunder's second album, and Sid's life credo. Band's leather jacket with studs. The rock and roll of Sizzling Thunder resounded through the galaxy, attracting involuntarily displaced youngsters to return to the crumbling Emerald 3. Lead guitarist Jimmy brought the band underground. There, they sang about the tragedy of planetary destruction, which echoed throughout the entire universe. David printed the back of his leather jacket with a white star, or more accurately, the white dwarf their star would become after the collapse. This would be their star's proof of existence. Those who left the galaxy and those who stayed behind all listened to that thunder-like rock and roll and brandished the same striking symbol. Despite ceasing to exist, their presence had been remixed into the music and carved into eternity.
We'll burn with our life, because the White Star needs a spark to ignite. From White Star, a single from Sizzling Thunder's final album of the same name. David wrote both the lyrics and the music. Band's ankle boots with rivets. Sizzling Thunder may have changed people's attitude toward finality, but they could not change their destiny. Desolation and despair were all that lay on the surface of the doomed planet. In the era of scarce resources, the band made all their albums out of discarded X-ray films. Before the long night of Emerald 3, the temperature of the planet's surface had plunged. The once unbearable air cooled down quite a bit as people walked out of their underground shelter and set out for the place where the band was putting on a show. At the final concert of their Thunderclap tour, the restless air filled with the warning signs of electromagnetic storms, and lightning was conducted through the metal scaffolding to the stage. Sparks leaped under Bonham's boots. The entire band merged with thunder and lightning. After the encore, a huge ball of lightning engulfed the stage and announced the end of Sizzling Thunder's show. After the night of their Twilight show, Sizzling Thunder came to a permanent end, just like their lyrics. Thunderclaps drown out our voice. Lightning runs through our veins. We'll perish with our music and our star. From Song of Sizzling Thunder, a single from Sizzling Thunder's final album, Bonham's masterpiece. Okay, I really am a big fan of this particular relic set because it gets to mention the Sizzling Thunder. And we've seen of them before a couple of times. We've actually seen it in the Equation series. But just the idea of these people going out with their planet, trying to be remembered in history, trying to bring in hope for those that were not able to leave is really freaking cool. Love the fact that there's a Doctor of Chaos in there as well. Wish there was more lore regarding them. Sadly, they no longer exist because the planet did end up blowing up. But one of the things that I really love about this, and the reason why Reika is in the thumbnail, is because currently the Garden of Recollection is trying to recover and preserve the memories of the Sizzling Thunder, because they want to bring in those memories, the music, the hope into other planets that have suffered a lot of damage as well, and they're currently being restored. So just, it's really wholesome how this massive tragedy turned into something that can bring in positivity for other planets. And I don't know, one of them had the little bracelet made out of people's mementos. That is so sweet. Genuinely love that. And finally, just like every other set beforehand, this set also does have two pieces that didn't make it to the end of the game. The first one being the band's sparkling pick, which belongs to one of the members, which is the rhythm guitarist, who goes by the name Axel, and the band's padlock necklace, which belongs to the lead guitarist, whose name is Jimmy. And we don't get to learn anything about them, sadly. I mean, it says that, the padlock has a number 66 engraved on it, those little lightnings. But what's the significance of it? I don't think we will know for now. Firesmith of Lava-Forging, Firesmith's Obsidian Goggles. To the Firesmith clan, crafting unparalleled weapons is both their talent's calling and a lifelong curse. Ever since the arrival of the liberated Firesmith clan in the world of Warforge, their skills bloom to the extremes, while also becoming tainted with the aura of destruction. The dazzling light of the furnace, the spark of metal clashing, and the long-lasting forging process can turn the raw ore into a fine weapon that can also gradually strip the firesmith of their eyesight. One day, At the bottom of a volcano, Foy found a deposit of rare obsidian flame crystal. From this, he carefully polished a pair of protective goggles, which transformed the fierce sparks of fire into pale white silhouettes. However, the greedy smith was unable to fully escape his cursed fate either, burning everything he was into cinders in the ultimate fire. Foy deemed the Antimatter Legion in the Warforge as the raw materials for his creations, and himself as the rising flame. I wonder, is it possible to harness the power of a thermonuclear reaction in my furnace? Foy's pursuit of the ultimate fire came to an unfruitful end in an out-of-control thermonuclear fusion. Firesmith's Ring of Flame Mastery. A 900-degree kiln can turn clay into ceramic. A 1000-degree furnace can melt tin and copper. As one pursues a purer creation, one must also pursue a more extreme temperature. Creatures of the Legion crave for separation from the material existence, longing for the fundamental mutations that can only be brought forth by the scorching heat waves of destruction. A highly skilled master firesmith can raise the forge's temperature to unbelievable levels. The flame's black body radiation would exhibit the blue spectrum like that of a dying star. Firesmiths are also geniuses at controlling flames, but only the best among them are bestowed with a Ring of Flame Mastery as a mark of their superb skill. The Warforge had long ceased to differentiate between the smith and the smithed. All those firesmith masters who had been smelting the antimatter creatures had also become part of the weapons of destruction. The smelting depends on the temperature, and the temperature depends on the firesmith. This is matter-of-fact knowledge to any firesmith who can control the art of destruction. Firesmith's Fireproof Apron. The Antimatter Legion gifted the dying Warforged to the firesmiths, letting them forge to their heart's desires in a fiery world. In this scorching world of lava, as long as the smelting and hammering never ceased, creation and destruction were no longer polar opposites of each other. Searcher was especially good at using the molten magma that erupted from active volcanoes to infuse the Legion's creatures with a violent aura of destruction. Neither the bubbling of toxic gases nor the gurgling of magma could interrupt Searcher's concentration at the forge. Though burning waves of molten rock would splash on Searcher's fireproof apron of giant fire lizard skin, the latter never lost its luster when the flames faded. A massive proportion of the Legion fighting forces were repeatedly hammered and smelted in the forge until their flesh and weaponry were fused together by the firesmiths, becoming the weapons of destruction. This incomparable power of destruction. The firesmiths who control the flame have never hidden the terrible aspirations they place on their weapons. Firesmith's Alloy Leg. In the old days, the prison masters feared losing the extraordinary art of firesmithing, so they would employ the most despicable tricks to incarcerate the firesmith clan. All the chiefs of the firesmiths would undoubtedly suffer deformities in their legs in those days of imprisonment. It was the Master of Destruction that set free the imprisoned firesmith clan and bestowed upon them the Mark of Destruction, which in turn granted firesmiths unlimited power. Despite the inability to move around like an able-bodied man, the chief of firesmith obtained true freedom, for he was no longer imprisoned just for his extraordinary skills and talents in the art of firesmithing. The chief poured in all his resentment and humiliation into the forge and would never be tired,
not even by days of non-stop hammering. Upon one hammering after another, the once stubborn and proud antimatter creatures had to eventually change their form and give in to the remolding by the destroyer. Despite being free from any tangible cages, the Firesmith's obsession with forging had become another form of prison for them. Had it not? Flesh and blood are a burden. Forging is also destruction. The chief looked at the ever-growing number of deformed firesmiths and lamented. Okay, can somebody tell me why one of the most intriguing lores regarding one of the Lord Ravagers, because this is related to the Arc Forger, because the Firesmiths work under the Arc Forger. Why is this one in particular hidden in a relic set that is notoriously bad, that like nobody ever uses? I think the only person that's ever used this relic set was Gwynaifen back before like the Borison set came out. And yeah, I would have never bothered reading this, but now I'm like reading it, I'm just like, you mean to tell me this thing has been here the entire time? We've been able to see that like people are able to just turn individuals into antimatter legion like entities through their essence, that they can just destroy and reconstruct them just so willy-nilly. I don't know, just as a whole, this relic set's lore is so big and I love it, but also just like I need more. Every single time I learn more about like the Lord Ravagers or any faction of destruction, which is like the ones that we know the least of, like we know we need to be scared of them and we know their implications of them growing stronger is horrifying, but we don't really know them. So it's just like I need more. Also, this relic set actually does not have any missing pieces from the beta, but you know which one does? The Musketeer of Wild Wheat. I'm bringing this one up here because one, I forgot to put it in the previous video, and two, once I realized that I forgot and realized that every single relic set in this video had one, I decided to put it here. So yeah, Musketeer of Wild Wheat also has these two pieces. The two relic pieces that were missing from last video were the Musketeer's Lingering Melody, which is a harmonica that Oakley has and wants to play whenever possible. It is mentioned in one of the passages, so I can sort of understand why that one got cut. And also the Musketeer's Wheat Weave Revolver, which again, it also gets mentioned in the past how Oakley learns to shoot through her father. So yeah, I understand why this one's kind of for the lore got removed, but every other one has just been like, I would have loved to have seen, The Wastelanders of Thalia must wear a mask at all times to protect themselves from the ever-present threats of residual radiation and sandstorms. Nobody knew if any scientific principles were ever taken into account when such wild remodifications of the ventilator mask were made. Perhaps it was all just a placebo effect. Haven't you heard? That old man across the valley plugged water tubes into his mask. I definitely couldn't take that if it were me. The Wastelanders seldom complain about the extremely harsh climate in Thalia. For one thing, ever since the nuclear blast filled the atmosphere with sand and dust, nothing could be done about it. Another reason, however, was that when red sand filled the air and blocked out the sun, it provided them with a prime opportunity to ambush the encampments of other bandit groups, as they could put on their breathing masks and pop out of nowhere among the sweeping sandstorm. A cohort of prepared bandits attacking another cohort of unprepared bandits. Such is the law of survival in Thalia. This sandstorm mask looks like a hassle to put on and remove. It has a Mail Scrapper Town anti-fraud production mark on it. Wastelander's Desert Terminal. Before Thalia became the Kingdom of Banditry, it was notoriously reviled as the junkyard of the galaxy. Discarded junk of all technology from other planets became another man's treasure here. Don't ever ask me if I enjoy wearing a mobile device heavier than shackles. It came in handy and was more powerful than a hammer in the most decisive moments. After Nailscrap Town was established, the most unconventional of Talian wasteland engineers finally had a safe and secure location to exhibit their outrageous idea, creating Talia's unique sensory technology. By combining a cesium dust counter and a cheeky AI mobile device, they gave birth to the Desert Terminal, a multifunctional invention from wasteland junk. The core idea for the so-called sensory technology is don't ask how, don't ask why, nobody cares.
You attached that piece of junk to me? You rump-fed, scurvy sewer rat.
The AI terminal speaks with a tone of honesty and earnestness. Wastelander's Friar Robe. Most of the gangsters in Talia have never expected salvation, nor do they know about friars. All they knew was that their robes looked useful enough as cleaning rags. Ignorance is still king? What a load of nonsense. Wastelanders found a monastery that had long since lain desolate and discovered some ancient volumes from an old civilization. Their gut feeling was that the recordings were precious. After hypocritically feigning appreciation, they happily burned those books to ashes, only taking along the robes left by the friars. After all, the other things wouldn't be worth a penny in Nailscrap Town. Most wastelanders were illiterate. No amount of record of civilization would be more useful to them than a hot meal. And they were not the ones to blame. At least, the robes of Friar remained, contributing to the continued existence of a long-forgotten civilization. Wastelanders powered Greaves. Nailscrap Town's bandits needed some means to defend their hard-earned water sources and junks, which was how the subpar banditry technology came to be. The powered armor was needlessly flamboyant, with its leg parts being the only functional section. I need a whole set of fully powered armor, and now you're telling me all the sections above were all blown up? Ask yourself if you dare to wear this set of greaves yourself. The defenses of Nailscrap Town that happened every now and then boosted the wartime development of sensory technology. Once, a random idea hit the engineers. With some materials of unknown source, they produced a set of powered armor. Unfortunately, only the leg part of the first generation of that cheap powered armor had survived. Even after being greatly simplified, the greaves still allowed the wearer to take off like a rocket, a mechanism that confuses engineers nowadays. According to the engineers, the design was completed in the limbo between dream and reality. It was a once-in-a-lifetime masterpiece of sheer ingenuity. A useful piece of junk is a good piece of junk, be it recyclable or hazardous. You know, I've always been a huge fan of the concept of like post-apocalyptic worlds, which is somewhat what this is like reflecting, because it's essentially just a wasteland. It is all destroyed, it's a harsh environment, and people are just like, how do we survive through all this? So they essentially became really smart when it comes to like engineering, resourcefulness, building, creating, huge. But then they're absolute idiots because they don't know how to read. So it's just like, dear God, that is like insane. Like, their inventions literally include ways to survive in the wasteland. There are rocket-powered boots, and something that I love in fiction, an AI-driven watch. Because, you know, in fiction, it's cool. In real life, AI is cringe. Anyways. And just like every other relic set, we have two pieces that did not make it out of the beta. This one being the Wastelander's Black Iron Police Badge, which is kind of insane, hearing that there is a police system within, you know, Talia, given that it's the Kingdom of Banditry. I mean, the description even says how, you know, there's not much use of it, but they still have it, which is insane. And then there's the Wastelander's tuned steering wheel, which I'm assuming is, you know, part of the car. That's I don't know why it's there, but you know, they're able to make vehicles, which is cool. So yeah, with that, we have gone through the lore of 6 more relic sets. And with these, we actually cover every single relic set that was released in the patch 1.0. Yes, we are this deep into the video, and we have only gone through the first patch. Dear God. Still though, reading and learning about the lore of the game is still absolutely fascinating to me, and I love being able to just get a little bit more context about what's going on with the world. It's really cool, it's fascinating. So you're not gonna hear me complaining. Like, you will hear my voice complaining, but you will not hear me in my brain complaining that I get to learn more and I get to discuss these things with you guys. Which reminds me, hey, if you enjoy this sort of content and would like to see more, please feel free to hit that subscribe button. It's free, it only takes a second, and you know, if at any point you feel like this type of content doesn't really suit you, or you feel like the quality is dropping, or it's just not your kind of vibe anymore, you're more than welcome to unsubscribe. I'm not holding you hostage. So far, we have gone through the lore of all of the equations, we've gone through all of the curios, and right now, we're working our way through the relic sets. All 3 of these have their own respective playlists that you can go check out if you so desire, and you know, you get to learn more about the lore with me, which is really, really fun. With all of that being said, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for watching all the way up to this point of the video. It really means a lot to me. So with that, I will see you guys in the next one. Have a great rest of your day, night, morning, or whatever time zone you're currently watching this video at. Bye bye.